or were, and whatever they did must be placed against the backdrop of broader events, against the swirl of personalities, groups, institutions and movements that operated in first century Palestine and composed the fabric of what is called history. To obtain any real sense of this period, we, like every other researcher, had to turn to other sources. Roman accounts, historical chronicles compiled by other writers of other orientations, allusions in later documents, apocryphal texts, the teachings and testimony of rival sects and creeds. Jesus himself was, needless to say, seldom mentioned in these sources, but they furnish a comprehensive and detailed picture of the world in which he moved. In fact, Jesus' world is better documented and chronicled than, for example, that of King Arthur or of Robin Hood, and if Jesus himself remains elusive, he is no more so than they. It was therefore with surprise and zest that we plunged into the background of the historical Jesus, but no sooner had we done so than we found ourselves confronted by a problem that besets all researchers into biblical history. We found ourselves confronted by an apparently bewildering spectrum of Judaic cults, sects and subsects of political and religious organizations and institutions, which seemed sometimes to be militantly at odds with one another, sometimes to overlap. It quickly became apparent to us that the labels used to differentiate between these various groups, Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, Zealots, Nazarenes, were neither accurate nor useful. The muddle remained, and Jesus seemed to have connections of one kind or another with virtually all its components. Thus, for example, insofar as anything could be established about him at all, he appeared to have some from a Pharisee family and background, and to be steeped in Pharisaic thought. Several modern commentators have stressed the striking parallels between Jesus' teachings, especially the Sermon on the Mount, and those of Pharisee exponents such as the great Hillel. According to at least one commentator, Jesus was himself a Pharisee. But if Jesus' words were often interchangeable with those of official Pharisee doctrine at the time, they also appear to draw heavily on mystical or Essene thought. John the Baptist is generally recognized as having been an Essene of some sort, and his influence on Jesus introduces an obvious Essene element into the latter's career. According to scriptural accounts, however, John's mother, Jesus' maternal aunt Elizabeth, was married to a priest of the temple, thereby giving both men Sadducee connections, and most sensitive of all for latter.